and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to today's video with me, where we will be talking about two things. Okay, they're kind of interconnected, they're beautifully flowing together, but this is something really strongly coming through. So I had this guidance from Spirit coming through a recent session, and it was a follow back on last year's session when also a video came out of it. It was about Earth School for like training school for volunteer souls. For those of you who are volunteer souls, specifically, a part of your higher self program design or blueprint for this planet is to be a bridge, as you know, of both worlds, because we can't kind of work with this higher dimensional light, bringing it here without the infusion and a correlation, you know, like this correspondence between worlds and dimensions. So this will be the guidance I'll share with you that came through, and how to create this synthesis. And it will be a lot about how to be this channel, you know, to receive this transmission through the anchoring work that we're doing here on this planet. And we're going to talk also a little bit about time, corridors of time, the multidimensionality of time, and how actually we're going to see the link between what I'm sharing first and then the time. Time is a false construct, and the nature of time as cycles of time, and merging the past and the future together in this now by going back from the future to the past to change our now. So okay, so as you know, the issue or challenge for many volunteer souls, many beautiful pioneers of light, very sensitive beings who are very loving, is to find their anchor in this world and feel good in this world, and not to just go for the feeling good, you know, but to have their mission and to live it, and to embrace every walk of life, every condition in life, to have compassion for many ways of life. As you know, I've shared with you many times my living condition, which has been ongoing now for 5 years, and it just was getting more and more dense. And, you know, the human part, the human counterpart, many times was doubting it, although I always knew intuitively that this is a part of my training. This is a part of me mastering the denser realms, the denser energies, that I simply have to really be aligned with that, okay? So this is very important for us, because we can hold any percent of judgment in this world. So therefore we go through these training segments where we're actually having to deal with here. And a lot of it has to do with just simple walks of life and building stability in that. So the result is feeling stable, provided nourished in any condition. This is not just about saying, okay, I comply with the way of the status quo or the way most people are living their lives, but really truly bringing our light uninterruptedly, not allowing ourselves to be chased out of the situations we're in, or spaces or sacred spaces, or the work we're doing. Like sometimes recently someone shared there was a activation they were doing through the sacred spots on the planet, and there were so many people there. They're like tourists and all of that, and they were finding difficulty to just do their work of light. And it's not for us to be chased out of those systems of dense energy, because then we're not doing our work, because we're doing it specifically to alter the fusion of both worlds so that the new world can be co-created. We're not denying one world its existence. We're not also superimposing the other world, like rendering it more important. We're just simply acting as vehicles of love for, you know, this space that was created, this space of, it's like the missing link, you know, that was not present for so long, which created this gap. The gap that there was, you know, we need this flow of interdimensional energy so that the dimensions can live and exist in a fusion. There can be a multidimensional infusion. Without that, there's always a rift created. A rift is the right space, the right word for this space. And with this rift, there's always a sense of quarantine, and we're going to read that in the book Earth as well, what they're saying about this. But first, I want to share the guidance coming through. So how can we be served and feel assisted, and at the same time assist the world where we're at? So recently in the session, the theme was stability, and companions shared with me that their higher self already informed them that they need to go through a certain job although they might not necessarily like all the components of the job itself. So they can have earth stability before they can move more into, you know, being supported and doing only their mission work with the healing and all these techniques and what they have to offer. So the guidance that came through was that this is not like financial stability. This is not, okay, you need a certain money and to get support before you can really do your work. This is about having the kind of stability that once you truly are the healer that you are within already, that you can fully live it. Because imagine not being stable in that, because a lot of people still hold judgment of the denser energy. So imagine something coming up during your session and you can't hold that space for the being, you know, because you still haven't embraced all the aspects of this polarized world we're living in, and we're bringing our multidimensional light into it. So imagine this happens, and once again there is a rift there, and we are supposed to act as midwives to this process, as bridges. And because of that, sometimes just observing the people the way they are, knowing that what they're doing is also creating, even if for us sometimes it feels very dense. Okay, so this means we have to embrace lovingly all aspects of creation and not running away from it, and not running away from our own training that's sometimes imbued or embedded within that system, because we go in these systems to learn about them, to learn the human art of compassion. I've shared about this so many times before, but we're going to go into what came through specifically for this, where we are now. Okay, so this means that a lot of times we're going to be confronted with certain density, we won't like it, and there's cases when people want to run away or walk away, but we're not walking away just from that situation or density. We're running away from our own training, which we simply have to go through to have a certain new sense of stability, because this is what we were anchoring for so long. So when you have that stability, you can exist in any kind of condition, right? They say a stone is a stone wherever you put it. That's kind of the truth. Being that pillar in whatever environment you're in any condition, whatever comes through, you're working with other people or their clients coming to you for services, and you can't hold that stable energy for them, you're not really going to be of assistance. So you're going to have a certificate, a diploma on the outside, but your energy can't provide that space of being a midwife, being an actual healer that works or operates through the principle of wholeness and unity. So embracing all energies. Okay, so how to do that? Okay, one of the things that came up strongly was, there's two things. I'm going to share the first thing and then the other one that also came through. Okay, so the first thing that came through is, during that guidance session, was that whatever you are in the place, something like a lot of people are experiencing, either a condition with society they're in, maybe an environment they're generally like where you're living, or maybe a job, or maybe the kind of people you're surrounded with constantly. Okay, so the first thing, because there's three segments of this, always things work in co-creation through divine trinity of life. So your input, the input of the environment, and then the co-creation with it, that's a triangulation process. It's a birthing of something that came as a result of your love return, and then something that's a greater creation for that or from that. So the first thing was to bring your anchor in any way you feel, so that you're always anchoring yourself in that space. You're providing your full presence there, even when aspects of you maybe don't want to be there, or rendering that space as, it's really too dense for me, I just really want to go away because it makes me feel trapped. And the reason we feel trapped is because we're not really grounded in the higher perspective of things, why we're truly there. We haven't gained momentum in that perspective awareness. So to simply put it, to anchor yourself there and your light there can be something simple, like carrying a stone or a crystal is something sacred to you, because that's a representation of you and your energy. It's not basically you, because everything is your consciousness, it's directly coming through you. As you know, energy is a working of consciousness behind it, and that's how we weave energy into being and becoming whatever manifestation that is. So if you're working with crystals, be careful and be very observant that you're working with intention. Always, all the three aspects I will describe, they all require work with intention, because that is what conscious co-creation is. So if you are bringing an aspect of you that represents you, like let's say there's a crystal you have and it's very sacred to you, and you bring it to that environment, or something, whatever, or every day you wear a specific jewelry or something that you say, that's what anchors me in a higher vibratory state in that space without judgment. And that's kind of like my representation of being the pillar, doing that work. Okay, so that means it also requires your input in the way that you work with this, that it represents you. So if you feel that's your anchor there, you're putting that input, it's like your gift in that environment, in that space, you know, one item or more, it doesn't matter. but it's the way you're flowing with energy. So you have to go to work every day, bring something with you that's very sacred, and then have the intention, because you're programming that object. It's not just an object, as you know, it's a translator of consciousness. You have to specifically state that this only works with your energy, does not inhale or, you know, energy from elsewhere. So it only works with translating your energy, and it's your anchor. Okay, so it's a representation of your consciousness and your loving conscious intent. Then that's the first thing. The second thing that's important is because this is not a one stream kind of transmission. This is an infinity based formulation that again, it's always based on love, which means you're not just there doing your anchoring. You are receiving impulses from the environment all the time. So for the people who are having hardship with feeling anchored somewhere because it feels too dense or difficult for them or very challenging, and they want to run away, but they will actually skip their training, so conditions will repeat somewhere else. That's not really beneficial for us that way. We're not really doing any good. So if our agreement is to be learning stability in a certain environments with certain people, because that's what our higher selves want us to achieve in this lifetime, in this way of serving the whole, is we have to stick with that. We have to persevere. Perseverance keeps coming up. So how to find anchor, you are your own anchor. That's the first step. Then how to find anchor in that space is also important, because that's the step that will fuel a relationship, a component here that will fuel love back to you. So let's say you're doing a certain work of light. The way I do it more with nature, some people do it more with people. I do it more with the energies of nature and natural environments that are shifting, but also with people, but not so much as a dominant mainstream field of work. So let's say there's something that you find as your anchor there. So let's say you have difficulty connecting with a certain space, but so you're being there every day. Find an anchor there. And an example that I was given is, let's say you walk in a very dense room and it feels just, it feels suffocating. But suddenly you see something like a sacred object that's placed there. Let's say you're a certain office from someone, but then you see a statue there. Maybe it's, the vision I got was like a statue of a golden horse. And then suddenly fuse all of your consciousness for that moment with that item and recognize the sacredness in that as well, so that you can find sacredness in any environment, even in that which in a moment of not full awareness, because you're not fully present, because you're scattered, you want to be everywhere else but there, and find that anchor as well, and then feel the exchange taking place. So when you fuse your consciousness with that, you will feel love returning to you. The recent example I had myself was, you know, I doubt sometimes that I'm still needed here in this environment, but I went for a run 2 times in a row, and 2 times the same things happen. Once a woman suddenly just smiled at me like a sunshine, and I was running. I was like, what? That's a really beautiful smile that you rarely can witness with people nowadays, because everyone's so busy and running around doing their things. You know, they're hardly noticing other people even. They're so entrenched in what just they're doing and in their own personal self. So they're finding difficulty in connecting. But then this connection took place, and suddenly I felt goosebumps, and was this feeling like sometimes a certain person just needs to be there, and they are more awake, they are more open, they're drawn there, and an energetic lockup of, like a lockup of energy takes place, and sacredness unfolds, and something needed to occur. And the next day I had that little girl who had like you know, those sunglasses that are heart-shaped. She was on a bike riding with her family. She looks back at me and starts to smile at me, and I'm like waving. And again, this feeling was like love is looking at me right there back. So finding anchors of love in the environments that we would say, I'm no longer needed there. Why am I even here? Or questioning that. And then when we find that anchor first within as a pillar, then in the environment, we're creating this lockup of energy, because that's how we ground what we need to do there. And we're kind of lessening and lessening this rift in the dimensional worlds that we're not able to synchronize and match up. And this is how we were kept in the 3-dimensional construct, and that is the only reality, and as far as we can go for so long. It's like the quarters of time and the greater multidimensional expansion with like the lid was put on. So with our work through love, we're actually opening that space up so that time can once again stretch out, be bended, you know, like we can bend time and stretch it left and right, up and down, move across it, like feel it how it is truly in a spiraling motion. So our work to practice this is in the mundane daily world. A lot of people will doubt their abilities as a being of light or a light worker, because they will think, I'm not being a public speaker or a person who has workshops. It has nothing to do with that. Our work is so sacred. Most of it takes place behind the scenes. You know, when I am receiving my own training, it's just like life teaching me, and I often I don't have to go to work the way most people do to be involved with the energies that people are when they go to work. It's the same thing. It's like every day I encounter very dense energies, like here, tourists, people, crowds. It's every day. It's like I go here for 8 hours outside. It's like I go to a working place. Same thing. People coming, things. And every day I'm learning to find an anchor. So the anchor is a gift of spirit that looks right back at you. And that moment you know, and you fuse your consciousness fully and totally with it, so that the infusion you're bringing can actually have its grounding cord. Otherwise, the energy is scattered and doesn't ground into, because there's a lack of love present. Remember, love grounds. The presence of love fuses all together, so that your love is not just the focal point, but it's a fusion. It's a flooding of love. The third element is when you are, let's say, finished with your day, and you're going through things, and you were dealing with so many feelings and things coming up. And let's say you just anchor yourself and say, what was the main energy really coming through today, or wanting to be expanded through me? And people who go to these places with other people, or they're working with other people, they might feel energies like loss, despair, hopelessness, anger, sadness, all of these. And just see and feel that energy, okay? See like you're holding it. But then what you're doing is you ask to be, through the gift of Holy Spirit, or whatever you call it, the great presence of life, the mother of all life, doesn't matter, whatever it's sacred to you, ask to receive divine dispensation, and then feel a golden spiral or a golden white spiral just starting to wrap up this, what you're holding. Imagine you're holding it. It's not yours. You're just holding it with awareness. And imagine it's just like being lifted off of you and your shoulders and everywhere. And then as it's moving up and it's being received by the gift of life, it transmutes. And then ask Spirit, okay, what is this energy, or maybe something I was working with today, what can it transform into? What is its highest counterpart? And then feel that returning to you as a golden shower of light, coming back, returning from Spirit, and that's your gift. That's the contribution of that metamorphosis process you help to contribute to. And then feel that, so let's say we have the energy of anguish or entrapment, and then when it starts to be purified and lifted up in its higher, be liberated, and then return as its higher counterpart, maybe you'll feel the energy of freedom, the energy of being a free spirit, okay? So receive the counterpart at its highest expression, a higher version of that. So we're not judging life to be a certain way. We're not even dominating and controlling energies like people are healing at the lower levels. You want to replace something with just another energy, but you're actually working with the divine dispensation, which is the pure gift of liberation of spirit, of holiness of life, and allowing it to become and birth it through you into a higher form through love. So that was the first part of that guidance, which was really important. In the second part, we did an activation, and in that activation we literally saw a merging. Okay, so you can do that yourself. It's very simple. In that moment, or maybe even every day, for as long as you feel like you always want to feel good, and you're not always feeling good. And we have now in our society almost like a disease or a sickness, that it's like that feel good kind of society. We always want to feel good and elevated, but not always, that highest level of elevation, which is vibrational. We want to always receive a compensation for something, but without doing the work, and it's kind of like this short, fast-tracked society. We want everything, we want results, we want answers right away without putting a devotional input. It's not truly what we're here for. So in this exercise, what you want to do is you want to feel yourself at your highest, most elevated, vibrationally felt and experienced sacred space. And you feel how you feel there. Where the qualities, the elements, the colors, like really feel yourself thriving. Because I get asked so many times, like, how long will I have to put up with this situation? When is it going to be over? When can I shift into another one? First thing is lose all sense of time. Even when people who ask, when will the right relationship come? Lose all sense of time. Return back only in the now, in the presence where all is created and can be basically co-created through consciousness. The second is, as soon as you allow all the learning you have to go there, you go through in that undergoing process, allow it to take place. Don't resist things. Okay, and then the third, you will know. When it's integrated, you'll know. Like without a doubt, you know when something is so. Like, one of the ways yesterday came through was, Sometimes people think, when will this job be over? And then they get fired, and they want to cling on to it. Well, maybe that's your cue. Someone fired you. It's like Spirit's initiative. It's done, okay? You're moving on. You're going to your next training ground. But everything is a part of our training. It's like steps and steps and steps that go in a beautiful golden staircase, the stairway to heaven, that we are already holding in our hearts and already are healers, but we're having to go through the processes that are, you know, like making us stable, making our connective, reinforcing force of light stable. Not one moment you are, then you're not. This is not where we're really, this is not our highest capability yet. We have to develop it further. So in that exercise, right, you will kind of soften this part of you that always wants to feel good, and when it feels challenging, you want to run away from it because it feels entrapped, because there's a perception like you always need to feel all your chakras line up and this, and always have this higher communication. We need to also understand that there's a part of our process and learning when we're going into the density, or maybe sometimes stick longer there, and doesn't mean we're not connected, but we're exploring that realm because there's a feedback. It goes, the informational circuit goes to the higher self. There's a stream of energy, and then the higher self always sends data back, how to reinforce the situation, how it is really flowing in the way that it's for the highest good of all. Okay, this is what we're doing, and this is what makes us lessen that rift, that dimensional rift, instead of dimensional fusion and alchemy. This is what we're doing. And sometimes you feel, well, that's I'm using the playground as a job or a relationship. Doesn't matter what the playground is. It's the result of consciousness within you that's born out of that. The playground just served as a template for you to explore those expressions of life, and then create responses to them, and then, you know, really master yourself through that. You know, these responses that you're carrying as energetic codes. So it's all in my Cosmic Training for Volunteer Souls audio. If you're still new and you really wish to get ahead in that knowing, it's all shared there in that audio MP3, which you can get in my book section in the Serpina Light webpage. So when you will feel peaceful wherever you are, no more running away, no more like drift all the time, doubting where you are, doubting your situation, that you are the one who's creating it in the first place. The higher self knows. That's why when sometimes doors are not open, it's for a reason. We're still going through something. Things are happening behind the scenes with our energy adjustments and harmonization, so it's all well. And in the second part of the exercise, now you will feel the place. It doesn't have to be a physical place, but the feeling and the place which makes you feel densest, let's say most entrapped, most limited in a way, okay? Because the first space was where we thrived the most and we're limitless, right? And this is what make me share with you that a lot of people ask, when will this be over? You lose a sense of time because there's a feeling like you're just waiting it out, and that actually creates a feeling of entrapment. When you don't see it like that, you know, it's not something you're waiting out, but you're not procrastinating, you're actually co-creating with it, and this will make you speed up the process of what you're mastering within a certain cycle of your training and integration. So no more running away, just embracing it. And this will lessen this burden, you know, feeling restricted in a way. So when you embrace that space, the second space, and see again how it feels like within you, the energy's coming up. And then the next step, what you're going to create is you're going to feel these spaces coming together. You can do this in whatever way you want. You can put them in globes of light, see them coming like electricity. The electric charge is drawing their magnetic nature together. They're naturally fused. They're coming together in unity. And then you can see that anchor point when they interconnect. One of the examples would also be if you yourself are operating a lot through intense, what could say, extremes. Like instead of being in your anchor, you're extreme. Let's say the way you communicate. Sometimes you will do things through control and only the way you want to, and in other moments you won't even express yourself. Even when you're asked, you're just going to shut down and that's the extreme. To be anchored in this point of centeredness within you is like, it doesn't know these extremes because it's polarity unified, and you're always sovereign no matter in what environment you are in. You know, yesterday we went on this huge, long walk, and the whole walk we had this theme and the topic, and we're doing the the releasing. I was assisting my mother because sometimes she has these extremes playing out, and I say you can be your sovereign at any place. Sovereignty is not connected with aloneness. Like, you need to be a loner to feel, oh, I know my space, oh, finally can I just express myself the way I want to. You have to learn that also when you're in environments and with people, because it doesn't mean you can experience that only when you're by yourself. You can always be sovereign. So this idea of loneliness and being alone, that you can really be yourself, is a false ideology. And we've, as humanity, we've kind of distorted these concepts of, you know, it's almost like you're following something or someone and out of sacrifice instead of compromising. Compromise is truly when things can merge. It's a merging concept, but we made it, we actually are talking about compromise, but it's really, we're talking about self-sacrifice. This is not the same thing. Often you will see couples, they think they're talking about compromise in the relationship, but it's about sacrifice. So one has to give something up in order for the other to get something, you know. And you have to know that when you're mixing and matching the desire, okay, let's say your desire is to feel good in a higher vibratory state, but then there's also desire for you to grow. And let's say part of that growth and your training does include going through certain conditions that are not always like just feel good at the surface level, but there's training in that. So to fuse both would mean that you are given through your higher self resources and means that you can be in this higher vibrational states no matter what, even when you're going through your training, and accepting these situations instead of refusing them or running away from them because you're basically resisting. So this is such a huge part, whether you're doing this just within yourself first, like some people are still doing the self-healing work, like in my mother's example, like she has to master this, how to be a sovereign no matter what. You know, sometimes I walk fast, she wants to like speed up so she could be as I am. And I said, look, this is relative. If I say you're slow, I'm actually just, I should rather shift to expressing myself and say, I'm so fast that you come out as slower today. It doesn't mean you're slow for yourself, because you can only compare yourself with yourself in different versions of how you feel and express yourself. But we can't do that anymore. We can't use this, you know, as an excuse that we're actually compromising. So if two people, we have to learn this because we're moving in the aspect of community expression. So if we can be ourselves and our sovereign when we're by ourselves, and then with others, how can we be in a community? A community respects and desires an input of everyone. And when you don't know how to express that because you think you don't have good ideas and you're not contributing the way others are, so you're hiding yourself basically, and you're just seeking that seclusion in terms of more running away rather than to be with the group but still in your own light, in your own space, the way you want to, then you don't know yet yourself as stability in all forms, in all ways of expression. So that would mean maybe you're asked for an opinion because the group wants to contribute like towards something they're creating, and you're kind of holding back. But your opinion, you're not valuing it that is the same importance as everyone else's. It doesn't have the same contribution. Maybe it's not the one that will be chosen as, this is what we're going to do or create, but it has something that will create a spin-off of energy that, oh, we're going to contribute that, we're going to contemplate on that, which will contribute to something else. So maybe something that comes out from all the inputs is something totally different, but all members have contributed with their thoughts and ideas because they're all, you know, important. So sometimes people will have ideas that they think, oh, this is childish. Yes, maybe from the perspective of someone who's always the wise one will say, well, that's a little childish idea. But in the end, when they will look at their creation from the whole, they will see even that childish perspective somehow made sense, at least to maybe lessen the not so serious energy of creation, and maybe sometimes to laugh. So maybe someone else will be, someone else's mission there would be to be a joker, to keep creation not always so serious, you know, because sometimes people get like this when they're learning that they're creators. They get so serious about it at first, you know. After mastering it for a while, that they can learn, they can also loosen up. So that was the third part, with the energies coming together and you feeling that it's all beautiful. And now imagine there's like this golden white spiral again connects these extremes. And it connects them into one space. And in the middle of that space, you know, find your anchor. And call out that anchor and be in that anchor. And then find that anchor within wherever you are in your body. Scan your body for that anchor and choose to remain within it. And utilize intent. Always work with your intent. You don't have to make an intention so full of things. When you get it down to the basics, these basics always cover up everything anyway. They cover everything. So when you say my intention is to serve love as the embodiment of love itself for the highest good of all, in all aspects, even with this extreme duality, polarized the way it is, when I'm choosing to focus on unifying it through harmony, love, grace, beauty, the value of all, the contribution of all, communion of all, relationship of all, inequality of all, and all comes to life. And I choose to feel always at the highest vibratory state of my joy, ecstasy, well-being, bliss. So you're calling back that feeling of bliss. And don't forget, even when you're doing the training, doesn't mean you don't get to reward yourself and please your inner child. That's sometimes the aspects we forget, which means we're so on the job. Sometimes that's also something that will overwhelm people. They get so in it, they forget to play. But yeah, I have to do this. I'm doing this higher self-work, and then we forget to play. The inner child, whatever we're doing, the training, a part of us is like this cosmic master, right? Is doing all these things. But the child also wants to play because we're on earth now. So we can do that in parallel, in simultaneous time. This is not separate. That's with the human self. The divine child has been such an important topic coming through, and I've been presenting it to you now for so long. Okay, this is the first part. Now I want to mention a little bit about time, again from the Earth book. I'm just going to read you a few passages. And now please feel the link. How this, what I'm going to read now, connects with our today's topic. Because we're not just, okay, we're bringing love by unifying and not judging any aspect of life. While we're in it, we're not always in it for the long haul. These are temporary conditions and situations we have pre-chosen so that we develop the kind of stability that is required of us here on Earth. We're not in Pleiades right now. Part of us is, yes, but we're here in the human presence and we're learning how this stability comes in a human grounded form in this time so that the evolution of the human being and the genome can expand. And a lot of it connects with the time. When we merge the dimensions, we open new corridors for time to be understood multidimensionally. Okay, I'm going to read a few paragraphs and then we're done, finally. These videos are so long lately because so much is coming through. I actually had a huge headache after the session because so much was channeled and I was like, whoa, it's intense. So let's start. Let us begin. The living library of Earth will ease you into a vibrational shift of sharing and flowing with energy. From nature, Earth's majestic playground, you will learn how to merge and emerge into the corridors of time. Time is a construct. On Earth, you have been under the assumption that the present springs from the past. We suggest that the present springs from the future as well. Time has many doorways through it, and the past and the future both have their own validity and importance. This is all part of the ever-expanding now. The past in its now continues to influence its ongoing now. These ongoing nows continue to grow and mature the same as their future counterparts. The assignment you are on involves changing your past as you spring from the future in order to create a different present. Exactly, because we're lessening this rift, because this polarization, which is extreme and intense, is keeping Earth locked in the sense of linear time. See, this is where the interconnecting space is between these topics. So we're basically doing multidimensional work in a way that, ow, sorry, ant. Ow, yeah, that's a part of Earth. Ow. It feels kind of mundane and truly is not. Okay, so time is collapsing in upon itself. Right now, it seems to you that space implies distance, that it separates you. When you think of someone in another part of the world, there is space between you. The collapse of time involves a disruption of the boundaries of frequency control. Ow, ant, just go away. No more biting. That define the world you operate within. Okay, so what's the difference in time as a linear construct? We need to kind of follow where we're running out of, or time we're creating within ourselves. And this begins with intention. It begins with love-fueled, creator-based intention. The structure of third-dimensional time locks and isolates you from your psychic self, the self that moves beyond time. Your psychic self knows things that are beyond what is apparent in the time you are in. Okay, so embracing all conditions, all walks of life means we're embracing this. And that even when people are very dense, all they do maybe is eat, procreate, that's it. They're still creating something at their level. and we're not rendering it like less important, but we're bringing the aspect of celestial light. We're bringing more options. We're bringing options for people who want to choose, because before it was like zero option, zero advancement. Now we're bringing those options, but we can do that if we constantly hold space of judgment of what feels like to be at the lower ability. And we need to drop these terms of, okay, I'm here in my higher mode and then I'm in the lower mode, still calling our human self the lower self. Why? It has expanded so much, we can no longer call it the lower self. It's just the divine child, human self. That's it. Okay, let's see what else can we read here. It's just the crickets. Because time is collapsing, the third dimensional structure is not in place anymore. More events happen per moment, preparing you for psychic breakthroughs. To a large degree, everything is very playful right now. There are many, many energies around you in your daily lives, enticing you to meet them and reinterpret your basic beliefs about reality. Time has a variable now. It cannot be measured and clocked any longer. You can change, bend, and move time. As time collapses, new concepts, ideas, inventions, and alternatives are bombarding the mass psyche of the planet every few moments. Probabilities of the moment are awakening and expanding through your experience of self-realization. Because you have mastered an affinity to connect with intelligence outside the planet, collectively the planet is beginning to qualify for a higher rate of intelligence and responsibility. Like I said, we're bringing potentiality back. Options. Though it may appear your world is reeking with corruption, please be aware that both polarities are going on at the same time. Those who carry light are becoming very empowered, and in a few years you will be amazed at the force of these people, for they are you. One belief you have in common is your belief in a new version of reality in which people express their freedom with respect, harmony, and cooperation, and in which earth and each form of life, animal, plant, mineral, and human, is valued. So when you anchor your love by something that represents you, and then you receive anchored back, you're being served back, even if it's like a tiny thing, when you choose to merge your consciousness with, you're using that like it was the statue of the golden horse as a dimensional doorway, because you're allowing a denser world to also have like its highest point. Like in that room, you're locating the highest vibrational item and you're choosing that to be the anchor point. So the anchor point is you, yes, but you also have to choose it in the environment, because it's the environment where we're doing our shifting work, you know, dimensional potentiality increase there. So remember that energy is in all things and that you are part of Prime Creator. Prime Creator is on a journey of separation so that it can come to a greater understanding of itself. So the keepers of time keep the universe alive by keeping it separated. For now. Time locks keep your consciousness from perceiving simultaneous time. The Maya, as you know, the keepers of time, laid the groundwork time-wise for events that are to transpire today. And then there's one beautiful example I would really love to read about. Atlantis is also, besides Mayans, another civilization that laid or layered a grid of information for this present time frame, like the Mayans did. Remember, everything is ongoing and civilizations never end. You think Atlantis was destroyed and exists no longer, so it must be in the past. That is one version of reality. In actuality, there is an Atlantean civilization that was never destroyed. An Atlantean civilization that solved its own dilemmas, found solutions, and did not need to terminate itself because of a misuse of energy. Similarly, versions of your world will find solutions and move into the golden age, just as versions of your world will be destroyed. This is how Atlantis or any other civilization can be in the future. Civilizations are ongoing outside of the constrictions of time, so in effect, the Atlantean version of the future that found its own solutions wishes to assist the Atlantean energy of the past, because it is all the same energy and it is all reincarnational versions of the self. The purpose of going back to the past is to heal and make whole and teach the proper use of energy. Civilizations that are quite successful in all versions of themselves always go back. That's what we're doing here, keepers of light. If you want to call it that, to assist the versions of themselves that did not have the same opportunities or did not find the solutions. A successful civilization can be conceived of as a conscious collective aware of its purpose and effect on the great web of existence. So what I shared today is we're lessening the rift by making things more approachable and applicable, by sending versions. We send versions from the future to this now, so they can reintegrate, not say, oh, I want to run away from it. These are all aspects of us, by the way. So the Maya understood that Earth is involved in a larger system of rotation than just the solar system. That system of rotation was based on different numerical divisions. The Maya created and defined time in your system based upon their knowing that you were part of much larger cycles. The purpose of Maya was to come onto the planet to establish a paradigm for the future. Different civilizations hold open portals of energy through collective consciousness. Energies that support or sustain other types of realities can, in limited number, be pulled onto the planet. However, a civilization must be prepared and trained to anchor this pillar of light. When there is light, there is information. So this is when we become stable, when we're in stability. We can actually act as anchors. Before we're still learning, we're learning about ourselves, we're learning how to do this, we're learning about the environment, and this is what will eventually get us to that point of stability on the planet to do the high work of service. Also, something important here, the Maya knew that one day their time would come to an end and they would leave the planet. And they knew that one day their knowledge, their keys would be uncovered and discovered by the family of light, by you. We suggest that there are some people who have discovered these keys already. The Maya knew the whole story of their purpose and why they came here to seed clues for a future that is now. Okay. Isn't that beautiful and fabulous? So we do that work by understanding there is no division in all realms of experiences that mirror the realities we're in, the realities we're choosing. Doesn't mean we have to be in compliance with what people are choosing, but we have to learn that compassion, which lessens the rift. The training for volunteer souls through the Earth School Mastery and the human compassion, developing our human love for our bodies. This is the gateway. So your body, like I said, is the highest expression right now to receive these messages through your feeling. The body always feels. So in any environment, in any condition you're at, ask yourself how you feel, and then that feeling, let it direct your new intention you're setting for yourself. Because without working with intention, we can't be masters, really, so to say. You're like thinking it's all fated and somehow it is destined, means design. Destiny is the design, the divine design that operates through all life and creation. And yet there's a component of co-creation with that design, which makes us utilize our sovereign free will, not just the free will that's manipulated and distorted, which is an energy that goes at expense of the other energy, which is power over others and over other things, other aspects of life. This is a co-creational aspect through unity. So harmonizing with all aspects and values of life. Okay, good. I hope that served you in some way. You can get my cosmic training for volunteer souls, where it is in the book section, and all the other MP3s for training, as well as other goodies. And you can always work with me personally as well. Thank you so much for watching. I always send you beautiful blessings of love, wisdom, and power, and I'll talk to you again in the near future very soon. If there is such a thing as the future, it's all in the now. So I'll see you in the new now. Bye.
Magical.